my fellow Americans.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
The Vietnam War and the push for US involvement was a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A lie. The Iraq War famously is a result of lies. Wars in Somalia are a result of lies. The Second World War and the German invasion of Poland was a result of carefully constructed lies. That is war by media. Let us ask ourselves, of the complicit media, which is the majority of the mainstream press, what is the average death count attributed to each journalist?
Let me ask you a question. Do you think you should be the one to be able to decide when to pull the trigger?
No, sir.
Isn't that what this is about? If you adopt the position that any time you are denied, your particular, and there's 4 groups out there, and inspectors, you're the group you headed, anytime you are denied, that ipso facto requires the United States and the Security Council to act on what they said they would do, which is to use whatever means necessary to take on Saddam Hussein so you can get into that particular facility. Is that not correct? Is that not your position?
Mr. Senator, I have a job to do, or I had a job to do, and that was to disarm Iraq in accordance with the provisions of relevant resolutions.
With all due respect, I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm trying to get this as clear as I can. I really mean this now. You have an absolute logic. You put together a very tight syllogism here. You've indicated that your job is to disarm. The only way you can disarm is to have access. The only way you can have access is either with permission on the part of Iraq, or if denied, forced access, right?
Compelled access.
Compelled. Well, okay, compelled. You sound like the lawyer and I sound like the military guy. I mean, compelled, where I come from, when my old man said you're compelled, it meant I was forced. I mean, it was a real simple proposition. It wasn't much to debate. Now, there is a clear logic to that. And that's what I mean when I say I respect your position. But that means that whenever you choose a target that warrants inspection and you are denied, that ipso facto, at that moment, the only way your position can be satisfied or sustained is if the UN Security Council or the United States, acting unilaterally, uses force to guarantee access. Is not that true?
Yes, sir.
Now, that means that you get to choose the time and place when we would use force, if we use force.
No, sir.
Of course you do. If you choose the site and it's denied.
And we coordinate with the member states to include the United States.
Exactly.
And prior to us going in, we have their agreement that this indeed is an inspection worth doing.
Okay, inspection worth doing, everybody's agreed it's worth doing, and it gets stopped.
Yes, sir.
At that moment, we're an automatic pilot as far as you're concerned. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I respect that. But now, it seems to me the Secretary of State might have a slightly different problem. Secretary of State might be sitting there and saying, now look over there on that side. Now, I remember so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and the 12 people on this side, they're all the ones that said they didn't want to use force. Now, I'm going to have to go tell the President now that we should, or Secretary Cohen, unleash whatever it takes to get it done. And our military assessment is the same as the Major's. The Major's assessment is, privately held but publicly acknowledged later, that airstrikes alone aren't going to do this. Saddam's not going to cave on this. So, now here's the deal. I recommended the President have at it and let the chips fall where they may. A reasonable position for the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State to take. But I respectfully suggest, Major, they have a responsibility slightly above your pay grade. slightly above your pay grade, to decide whether or not to take the nation to war alone, or to take the nation to war partway, or to take the nation to war halfway. That's a real tough decision. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they get the limos and you don't. I mean this sincerely. I'm not trying to be flip, because I think, and that's why I said at the outset, the reason why I'm glad you did what you did, we should come to our milk. We should make a decision. But in terms of whether the Secretary of State has no more to consider than you do as the arms inspector, you didn't get in, didn't get my job done, get me in. Period. You made the deal, right? That's the deal. A deal's a deal. Get me in. Scott Ritter, I'm ready to go. It's not how it works. Now, maybe it should work that way. But wouldn't you acknowledge that if you were President of the United States or the Secretary of State, you'd sit there and say, now, okay, old Scotty boy didn't get in. We said he should get in. We want him to get in. It's important that he does get in. They're not going to let him in, so what are we going to do now? We know that France and Russia aren't going to be with us. We're quite confident China's not. We've already run those traps. They're not there. We're not sure where the United States Senate is, but have at it, boys. Go get them. And by the way, Scott and the boys say air power's not enough. I think it's a legitimate debate, Major. I think it's a legitimate debate. But I don't think we should be putting it in the context of, you have somebody up there at state saying, look, how can we weasel out of this agreement? We want to let this guy out there hanging. We're not this. It's a very practical political decision. Same kind of decision General Powell made. Same kind of decision President Bush made. Every president, every Secretary of State has to do it. Like I said, they get paid more than you. Their job's a hell of a lot more complicated than yours. They may have made the wrong decision, and you brought it to light. We should address it. We should say straight up where we are, and we should do it. And for that, I thank you. But it's above your pay grade.
Rationality belongs to the cool observers, but because of the stupidity of the average man, he follows not reason but faith, and the naive faith of the proletarian requires necessary illusion and emotionally potent oversimplifications, which have to be provided by myth makers to keep the ordinary person on the right course.
asked you this question is because today the federal court ruled that the government doesn't have the right to determine who is or is not a journalist. This is the second election in a row that the court had to overturn your government. Do you still insist on being able to make that decision, and why?
First of all, questions around accreditation were handled by the press gallery and the consortium of networks who have strong perspectives on quality journalism and the important information that is shared with Canadians. The reality is organizations like yours that continue to spread misinformation and disinformation on the science around vaccines, around how we're going to actually get through this pandemic and be there for each other and keep our kids safe, is part of why we're seeing such unfortunate anger and lack of understanding of basic science. And quite frankly, I won't call it a media organization, your group of individuals need to take accountability for some of the polarization that we're seeing in this country. And I think Canadians are cluing into the fact that there is a really important decision we take about the kind of country we want to see. And I salute all extraordinary, hardworking journalists that put science and facts at the heart of what they do and ask me tough questions every day, but make sure that they are educating and informing Canadians from a broad range of perspectives, which is the last thing that you guys do.
Killed a million people in Iraq.
That is a separate...
You killed 1 million people in Iraq. It's incredible that you have the brass neck to be sitting here now urging another Iraq war
George,
after
if
what
I
you've
was
already
still in
done.
Parliament... There can be no doubt that Saddam Hussein has biological weapons and the capability to rapidly produce more, many more. And he has the ability to dispense these lethal poisons and diseases in ways that can cause massive death and destruction. If biological weapons seem too terrible to contemplate, chemical weapons are equally chilling. UNMOVIC already laid out much of this, and it is documented for all of us to read in UNSCOM's 1999 report on the subject. If we consider just one category of missing weaponry, 6,500 bombs from the Iran-Iraq war, UNMOVIC says the amount of chemical agent in them would be in the order of 1,000 tons. These quantities of chemical weapons are now unaccounted for. Dr. Blick says, quipped that, quote, mustard gas is not marmalade. You are supposed to know what you did with it. We believe Saddam Hussein knows what he did with it, and he has not come clean with the international community. We have evidence these weapons existed. What we don't have is evidence from Iraq that they have been destroyed or where they are. That is what we are still waiting for.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans, right. You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. You get
NIH,
one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among animals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's let Dr. Fauci.
I have to, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well, wait a minute.
It did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, It is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
No
is
one alleging that
molecularly.
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not.
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You are the
Paul's
one.
time is expired, but I will allow the witness to.
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists, those viruses are molecularly impossible
No one's
to
saying
result
they are. No
in
one's saying those viruses
SARS-CoV-2.
caused the pandemic.
Senator Paul,
We're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were
they're not.
animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
won't admit the truth.
And you
Senator
implying.
Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond. Dr.
And you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals. I totally resent
could
that.
have
And
been.
if anybody
could
is
have been.
lying here, Senator, it is you.
Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the President. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, everybody, to Redacted on this Monday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And it's a cold winter day. So excuse me for my big, puffy, like Norwegian Viking sweater
Were
today.
you out chopping some wood before the show?
I was chopping some news wood
with
earlier.
Your bare hands like
Right.
Captain America?
Just ripping wood apart. That's exactly what I was doing.
That's the outfit to wear. I have a hot tea. Let's see how long it stays hot, but I'm also full of hot air.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I'm Natali Morris. His name is...
My name is Bjorn.
It's
Bjorn. Thor. Welcome into the show. We've got a jam-packed Monday for you. A lot happened over the weekend. A lot happened over the past 48 hours, really, that we want to bring you up to speed on. And later this afternoon, we had a lot of updates and news that we want to bring to you. We're going to be looking at whether or not President Biden is done. So I know this may sound conspiratorial, but all of the pieces are coming together. All of the pieces are falling into place. We're going to show you some of the unbelievable latest moves out of Washington, D.C. as it relates to President Biden and this mysterious documents that keep appearing at his property. We'll look at that.
Plus Ukraine in chaos, and the West seems split over how much aid to continue to send. How much do they want to continue to destroy their economies? And it's really interesting how the Western media is like, they're fighting, but they're not fighting. We are all in on Ukraine still. Some people don't want it, but they're...
Should we send tanks? Should we not send tanks?
Yeah, we're going to break down that narrative as well as figure out what the heck is up with eggs. The egg economy is scrambled. It's foul. We're going to crack this story.
Stop.
Which one of you is the dad? Which one of you is the dad? Right. Because Natalie's the one that throws out the dad puns all the time.
I know.
Awful dad jokes. Yes.
I got another one for you this weekend. It's been a little rainy. Why does Snoop Dogg use an umbrella? Don't tell the punchline. Because of the drizzle. There's more like that waiting for you here on Redacted, starting right now. Stay here.
Jokes weren't all they're cracked up to be. Welcome into Redacted on this Monday. It is crazy. Like, I mean, what the hell is happening with $9 for a dozen eggs? Like,
in Hawaii, they're paying over 10. It is crazy town right now. Let us know if you know, what are you paying for a price of a dozen eggs in your grocery store?
It's crazy. I mean, it's like, and you know that this is not happening by accident. Absolutely not happening by accident. So welcome in on this Monday. If you subscribe to the channel, your name will pop up here on the big screen during our live show. We're live every Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Let me just say this, because there's been some scams running around out there lately, and we want to call attention to this. So sometimes if you post a comment here on our channel, and if you ever receive like a comment back that has like a redacted, it looks like our channel, but it's not quite, and someone asks you to send them a WhatsApp message or a Telegram message to join a private WhatsApp group, that's not us. We will never, ever ask you to do that, okay? And so please don't ever do that. And never, ever give out your personal information to someone like that either, okay? So if someone's like, hey, join our Telegram group, and then, by the way, send me your bank account info. We will never do that. But this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem on YouTube. I mean, Marquez Brownlee's done videos on this. This has been a disaster. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just one sure way that you can always know that you're listening to the channel that you're on is it will have a check mark next to the name. It's the Redacted with a check mark. And it usually will have a circle around it too if you're on. I believe that's on dark mode, but it will have a check mark next to it if it is the official Redacted. If it does not, like they'll try to do the green check mark. This is just a gray check mark. So it's like Redacted check mark, not Redacted than like a green. So just be very careful on any channel you're on, because this is happening a lot.
And also, I should mention, there's been a couple of live streams where they use these like SpaceX or Tesla channels where they do live streams with Elon Musk, and they try to get you to join some crypto thing. And this is a huge problem on YouTube. There's like multiple live streams happening at any one time. Well, they've been using our name, Redacted, because we have a big channel. So they've been using my name and Redacted to try to do fake crypto live streams with Elon Musk. That is not us. So if you see something like that, you can please report it as spam or misleading, but that's not our channel.
And thank you for alerting us to those. We had a few people, they just kept popping up, alerting us. And those of you I see in the chat saying I reported those, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for helping us.
We are The Real Deal. This is The Real Redacted. We are live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday. We do have a free daily newsletter. This is the only thing you can sign up for that's free. And you actually do put in your email address. So for this, you have to do it because we send you a daily email every day that we work hard on every day. If you go to redacted.inc and you sign up for the email, you'll receive a verification welcome email. And then tomorrow morning, after you've verified it, you'll receive the newsletter first thing in the morning. About 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time is when we publish it. We cover like 4 or 5 of the big stories that you might have missed overnight, some little news nuggets, some what's trending, some news by the numbers. We try to make you smile a little bit and kickstart your day. So again, that's the Redacted newsletter. That is from us. That is redacted.inc, not .com. Okay, without further ado, let's get to the news because we want to talk about what's happening in Washington, D.C. I think this is one of the most important stories of our time. President Biden is being forced out of office. Now, earlier last year, 2021, you remember when I said on this show, not once, many times. So give me props, David. I know you remember. I don't know if you remember.
Yep, I definitely remember.
I'd like to get some props from my wife occasionally, but I'll take them from David. I said,
are you pausing for them?
I'm pausing. I'll wait.
I don't know what I'm giving you props for.
Well, then
yet.
I'll come back to getting the props.
Okay.
The President Biden would not finish out his first term. Now, we're not there yet, right? We still have 2 years left.
Yes, honey, you called that one.
Thank you.
You're so clairvoyant, Clayton.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
How you're the knower
I knew
of
so
things.
much that I knew what he was going to say before he said it. So that's why I was already in agreement because I knew where he was going.
So I mean, look, it doesn't take a genius to think that he wasn't going to finish out. I'm surprised he even announced that he's going to run again. I didn't think he would finish it out, and I certainly didn't think he would say he was going to run again. But clearly, the move is now underway to make sure that he does not do that. I wasn't sure at the time how this would come to pass exactly, but it's clear now that President Biden is being pushed out of office. All of the deep state pieces are coming together. Will he be replaced by Kamala Harris? That seems to be the most natural course of action, of course, or Hakeem Jeffries, and then eventually Gavin Newsom. There seem to be priming Gavin Newsom to be the one that takes over in the long run.
Have you seen? Yes. Have you seen this push now? All of a sudden, like there's all of these videos about Roe v. Wade with Kamala Harris coming out. Like they're very scripted, very edited, and they're just like trying to put her out there now, where she has been silent before. They've hidden her pretty much, and now all of a sudden she's out there. So
yeah, and they knocked her down a peg at the very beginning, and now suddenly Kamala's out there over the past week or so. Like all of it's very strange, isn't it? How all of these things are. And by the way, nothing happens in Washington by chance. It's all coordinated. It's all part of the plan. So I'm going to get to the evidence in this in just a moment. But first, some context. In February of the year 2020, less than 1 year before President Biden took the oath of office and became president of the United States, this happened. Watch.
I mean, people in the establishment's jaws are hanging off their faces. He's on his way to the nomination.
I'm delighted to bring you some pretty good news. All of you know we won the popular vote in Iowa. We won the New Hampshire primary, and we have now won the Nevada caucus.
So it made sense. Young people were fed up with the establishment. Sanders' message was resonating, ending foreign wars, a living wage, strong unions for workers' rights, free college, right? Made sense. If we stopped spending billions of dollars on all of these foreign wars, we'd be able to pay for college for Americans. No wonder he was winning by a lot, actually. And then suddenly the message came down from the deep state. We can't control Bernie Sanders. He's maybe a loose cannon. We need someone we can control. And then the message was delivered to the mainstream media. The billionaires told their teams to keep Bernie Sanders off the air. Pretend he's not running. We know this because whistleblowers came forward. We reported it here on the show at the time at MSNBC. In particular, one whistleblower came forward, a producer, revealed that her bosses told her to keep Bernie Sanders off the screen. No graphics, basically no mention that he exists, that he's even a candidate for president. Oh, and even more so, he's not allowed to even come on the air for interviews. And even got heated at one point because Bernie Sanders called MSNBC out about it, and NBC in general. Like, why are you not pretending I'm even running? I'm the front runner. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it was.
So they certainly didn't want Bernie, and they certainly didn't want him to be guests on the show. In other words, Bernie Sanders doesn't exist. And then, unbelievably, a few short weeks later, this happened. Bernie Sanders drops out of the 2020 Democratic race for president. It worked. And in just 7 weeks, Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race. He's on his way to the nomination on these messages, and then boom. He's kissing the feet of Biden in that embarrassing endorsement video when they got together over Zoom. And he's like, it's crazy that we're here together, but I'm throwing my support behind you. And you promised me, of course, that we would, there was a number of things you promised me.
Yes.
College, we're going to deal with that. We're going to deal with minimum wage. We're going to deal with these other things. None of that came to pass, right? Didn't do any of those things.
Well, we got the crappy versions of those things. We got some student loan forgiveness. That's not the same.
It's not free college. Yeah, it's like.
But they can pretend that they ticked the box.
So, yeah, what happened? Like, what happened? Well, the permanent government in Washington chose Joe Biden. That's exactly what happened. Someone they could control who would not only continue our involvement in foreign wars, but actually accelerate it. Do whatever they wanted. Fly to Raytheon and say, hello, I'm here to help.
Do you remember when we heard that, like, I think it was Obama had called, like, Buttigieg stepped down at the same time? Like, they all stepped out of the race at the exact same time.
Amy Klobuchar, great point. Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren. Hey, if we can solve this disagreement that Biden and Elizabeth Warren have had for a number of years, then she'll drop out. All of them. It was like dominoes within like a short amount of time.
Yeah.
All of them throwing them to support behind Biden. Like, what? And by the way, at the beginning, they did not want this guy at all. It was a joke. They were mocking him for his age. But then suddenly they realized, hey, we can control this guy. The backroom deals, the wheeling and dealing was happening. So then, they get this guy that will elevate big pharma. They will elevate this guy that will push the deep state military industrial complex. Right? That's who Joe Biden is, providing government fast tracking for booster shots without human trials. Like, all of these things really made it very palatable for Joe Biden to be in there.
He's also put a lot of money in the homeless industrial complex. As long as we're throwing out industrial complexes, we can't forget
what do you mean by
one.
that? Like he...
well, there's a lot of money for homeless programs, especially in progressive states.
Right.
But no accountability, so none of the homeless problem is actually getting any better.
So they throw money at these states through these programs, and the states get money thrown in their coffers, but of course nothing actually happens. So until, that is, they want to support him until they don't, right? Until he suddenly becomes a liability to them. And then that's when it's clear he's going to lose in 2024. Like when there's no way this guy wins in 2024, right? There's no way we prop this guy up for that.
If he would just stick to his scripts that they write for him and not go off script and have so many gaffes, I think they would keep him, because I think that was the beauty of him before, was that he just stayed on his scripts. But like now he's like getting off of them. It's like, oh, now he's having gaffes and we're having to come back and clarify what he said or didn't say. So I think there's enough of that they can't do that anymore. But if he would have just stuck to prompter, he'd probably still go in 2024.
And his poll numbers are awful.
But do you think it's because he's done something wrong? He's crossed somebody in the deep state? Maybe you're going to get to this. Or is it because he just no longer looks alive?
I think that's the great question, right? So my question's still lingering, and we don't have a clear answer on this, is what did he do? What specifically? There are a couple of big moments that stand out to me. Particularly, it has to do with Saudi Arabia. Once you screw over Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabia turns to China, is that the moment?
But he didn't. We did the piece on how his administration went to bat for Mohammed bin Salman. MBS. I'm sorry, the last name doesn't roll off.
But that part, that's one piece of this. But I'm talking about the oil alliance and making now you have a fracturing of this. I don't know. And I'm just throwing this out there. Let us know in the chat what you think. What you think it is. But something has changed. Over the past couple of days, the mainstream media has completely changed its tune on Biden. Normally, the fawning liberal media carries the water for establishment Democrats. Senator Rand Paul points out this sudden change. Watch.
Do you subscribe to this theory that there is, or it appears to be, some type of internal attempt to take Biden out of the 2024 running?
I think if you watch the news cycle, there's a startling difference in the last week or two, particularly over the classified documents and perhaps over some of the corruption charges with Hunter Biden. They've been steadfast in ignoring this, for years and really not reporting on it at all. I think the fact that they're reporting on it now, if I had to guess, if we were in the boardroom of some of these left-wing media outlets, what we'd be hearing is it's time to sort of ease him out, make sure that he knows that he can't run again in case he's rumbling that he might run again. I think most of us have suspected that he wouldn't run again, but I think the Democrats and those in charge of the Democrat wing of the press, I think they want to make sure that he's pushed enough that he knows he can't run again so they can start looking for a new candidate.
Yeah, is it health related? I mean, all you need to do is literally watch videos from a year ago. Just 1 year ago. I was going through archives today of just videos just to compare, and just looking at from 1 year ago, you can see the mental decline is unbelievable.
And the physical decline as well.
You can't even give a speech. You can't even talk. They made a mistake having him do a press conference the other day where he yelled at a reporter, and he totally, spilling over words. Go ahead, David. You were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, do you feel like it's just a coincidence that this is happening after Twitter starts releasing the Twitter files and everything and goes more free speech? Because it's like they're really shining a light on what was really going on behind the scenes. And I don't think a lot of people actually knew that. And I wonder if that taking off the way that it is, not with the mainstream media, but they're seeing that the message is being hijacked from the mainstream media, and channels like ours and things like that are getting information out. And I wonder if they're seeing that and be like, okay, we're like, because look at the turn that Republicans have done now with McCarthy as a speaker going after the IRS and stuff like that. It's like all of a sudden they're promoting bills that are making sense. Like, I feel like this shed a light on something, and they're like, hey, we better get on the right side of this or we're going to all be screwed.
But then why would Joe Biden need to be a fall guy for that?
Well, I'm just saying because it's shown a light on how much corruption there was before he was actually president. The Ukraine thing, now all of these confidential files are going to show the connections that he had to Ukraine and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. I just feel like some of that has shown a light on some of the corruption that he has been doing for years.
Okay, I see. I'm following.
I don't know if that's the case, but
I think they see him as a liability. I think that's what the deep state thinks, that he is now a liability, and that he also can't carry out what they need them to carry out. And it comes down to money and power. And if the guy at the top is a liability, then he's taken out. I mean, just flip on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, on any major news network, they're all saying the same thing, what Rand Paul just said. If they speak out against the hypocrisy, they lose their job. They're silenced, as in the case of Miguel Almaguer, at the NBC reporter, of course, who came out and reported on Paul Pelosi's story. He was silenced. NBC pulled him off the air, was removed. They removed his reporting from their website. But since then, since this classified document story suddenly surfaced, the normally sort of lapdog media pounced. Even the White House press secretary is upset about it, trying to remind a CBS reporter, Ed O'Keefe, hey, you don't need to ask tough questions of me. Ed, we're friends, remember? Watch.
You're the one here talking to us about this. That's why we're asking you. So let's just remember that.
We don't need to have this. We work very well together. We don't need to have this kind of confrontation. Ask your question, and I will answer them the best that I can.
Part of the reason we're laying that out is because you're laying out your part of the job. We're laying out our part of the job.
I know, but I'm just saying that we don't need to have contention. You don't need to be contentious with me here, Ed.
Yeah, we're friends, remember? We're on the same team. Right. We're on the payroll together,
You're not
basically.
supposed to be.
Right?
We act like it.
But then on the Sunday shows this weekend, it's unbelievable. CBS, has done 3 fawning reports on 60 Minutes over the past year on Joe Biden, right? Big sit-down love fests. They've done continuous love fests on Joe Biden over the past year. And then over the weekend, this happened. Watch.
But the issue with public transparency and the president not being straight with the American public is certainly going to linger now and be the subject of questions not only in the press, but probably from his critics on Capitol Hill.
And we still don't know why there were lawyers searching the offices on November 2nd when they found these documents, and the Penn Biden Center has not returned CBS's calls and questions on that.
Wow. We're asking questions. And
no,
why?
we do know, because I watched Rachel Maddow tell us that they were all cooperating. They're cooperating. That's the difference between Biden and Trump, is they have been cooperating all along. So if you got to ask Rachel Maddow.
So why were lawyers suddenly there all of a sudden? Like, it's a great question.
To cooperate.
Before November. Like, why? And why did you keep it quiet? Why did you keep it secret? Not telling anyone? No, you won't answer our phone. Suddenly now CBS is being confrontational, wants questions. And the White House doesn't know what to do with themselves. Like Karine Jean-Pierre is like, oh my God, I can't. NBC's asking me tough questions. CBS is asking me tough questions. It's not just Peter Doocy from Fox asking me tough questions. What the heck is going on? Or the African press corps that I fire and kick out of here on a regular basis. It's other people. So then, stunningly, this weekend, ABC News also doing a mouth, which is normally a mouthpiece of the White House, across the Rubicon. Martha Raddatz slamming President Biden for these illegal documents. Watch this.
And Mary, the problem is the White House insisted all week the president takes classified documents seriously. They've downplayed the special counsel probe, but more classified documents keep showing up.
Exactly. The president has been adamant, saying there is no there. He has been exuding confidence, even if some frustration, insisting they are doing this by the book. They are fully cooperating. And for days now, the White House press secretary here has really hammered home this argument that the president takes classified documents seriously, and yet they keep finding more of them.
Yeah, they keep finding more of them. Wow. We cleaned it out. No, we said we got them all. And then the reporter's like, did you get them all? Peter Alexander's like, did you get them all? Yeah, we said we got them all, but we keep finding more of them.
Okay, alternative theory just popped up. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go while I formulate my thoughts.
Okay, so we covered this like last week or whatever. Those files were found in November before the midterms or whatever. So it's like, why, if that was the case, then why, like, that shows that they weren't working with him. That just completely destroys their entire narrative that they were, he's above, he was doing the right thing.
Yeah, you would have told us then, right? 6 days before an election, hey, we found some legal documents at our houses in multiple locations where Hunter Biden had full access to. And by the way, what are the visitors logs? I mean, that part of the story.
Up your theory.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your conspiracy theory? What's your
well, now that you
theory?
give me this November date, it doesn't quite, because maybe I was thinking.
But they're still finding them. The point is November happened and they're still finding them.
Right. But in light of the Twitter files showing us how biased the press is and how ingrained the press is into technology and social media, this also gives the mainstream media an opportunity to pretend that they are unbiased over something that they may not want anymore, which is a Joe Biden presidency. It may sort of give them the best of both worlds, is to say, look, we took Biden to task just like we took Trump to task. So we are definitely fair, see, and then we get our next candidate that we want.
Yeah, I don't know.
That maybe is a stretch.
That's probably a
stretch. It went a little far, but
I like the stretch.
I gave it a shot.
I like yoga. So the liberal press is one thing, but it's quite another then for Biden's closest friend and chief of staff, Ron Klain, to suddenly announce that he's resigning also this weekend. What's going on? Breaking: Biden chief of staff Ron Klain to resign amid classified documents scandal. So just to put this in some perspective here, he's not just some lackey in the White House. He's been by Biden's side longer than anyone. I mean, this is absolutely huge.
That pretty much means he's the guy that's responsible for everyone around Biden.
Yeah, everyone around Biden. And by the way, Republicans called him, jokingly, they call him the prime minister. They call Ron Klain the prime minister because he is that powerful. He is running Washington. Here he is, long time ago, with President Biden, then Senator Biden, by his side, 1991. There he is, right down to the right-hand side. There he is. They're friends. That's where they are back in 1991. So what the hell is going on here? Will he run the president's campaign in 2024, or is he getting out of the sinking ship? What do you guys think of this?
Me?
Well, anyone.
Oh.
Will he run his campaign? I mean, he's leaving. Is he going to now run President Biden's campaign? Like that?
I don't think anybody that's got any kind of common sense or any kind of future goals would get behind this campaign.
Yeah.
Like the sinking ship. So he leaves amid this document scandal. Like, what's going on here? He's your longest friend, longest ally in your jumping ship. Republicans called him the prime minister because they knew that he was running the White House. So now who's running the White House? Who's going to be running the White House? You can't even make this up. Here he is. Here is, according to the Washington Post this afternoon, Jeff Zients to be the Biden's next chief of staff. Jeff Zients. Who is Jeff Zients? Amazingly, it was confirmed that Biden is going to replace Clayton with big pharma mouthpiece and investment banker Jeff Zients. Now, Jeff Zients is Biden's COVID czar. So he's perfectly positioned to carry out the deep state bidding on this, along with the CDC. He was responsible for that horrific COVID message and the COVID policies, government mandated vaccines. So it makes perfect sense. In fact, he pushed for forced vaccines.
Forced vaccines?
He is out with his most famous line. Of course, this is the line that made him most famous when in his speech where he scared people to death by telling them, you better go get a vaccine right now or you're going to die this winter. That's what he said. Watch.
For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death. For yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
Yeah, that's right. And the hospitals that you were overwhelmed. So forced vaccinations, you better get there because, as he said, and you can reread the verbatim again on whitehouse.gov, for the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death for yourselves, your families.
Wow, spoken like a true big pharma benefactor.
Here he is pushing the forced vaccines, especially on young people. He thought young people were the biggest and most probable. They were the most trouble in all of this. So he's now going to be White House chief of staff. Watch this.
You're right. Younger people, particularly those in their 20s, have felt less vulnerable to the disease and therefore less eager to get shots. They were made eligible later, so they have not been eligible as long, and we continue to see hundreds of thousands of young people vaccinated each week. But we need to continue to vaccinate everyone, particularly young people, because what we know is if you are vaccinated, you're protected. And if you're not vaccinated, you're not protected. And that's particularly important for everyone, including young people, in light of the Delta variant. So we are going to continue our efforts to vaccinate all Americans by making it easier to get vaccinated and continue to answer people's questions about the efficacy and the safety of the vaccines.
Oh, yeah, you'll answer the questions.
When was this?
Mr. Personality, isn't he?
That was, I don't know. I don't know exactly the date on that one, but.
Okay, but it's not recent is all I was getting at.
No.
Okay.
I mean, no, it was during the Delta variant time, but I mean, he's Biden's COVID czar, now been promoted to White House chief of staff. So there he is. So I want to ask you guys in the chat, how many guys, how much longer do you think Biden lasts?
Are we taking odds?
Yeah. So we've got 2 years left. Apparently he's going to announce, he's going to announce after the State of the Union address that he's going to run for president again. All of these pieces are coming into place. Tucker did a great piece the other night, specifically on the Watergate angle on all of this and how 4 out of the 5 Watergate break-in folks were CIA, right? So all of it planted there in order to push Nixon out. How much of this is planted? How much of these documents planted and are orchestrated by the deep state?
I don't know, but it scares me. Because it's not widespread. Piece in particular scared me.
Because, it's true. Think about it. It's not about the border, right, where you have multiple players. You've got Mayorkas. You've got all these people, right? It's one thing. It's documents in your garage. And who else can you blame? They can blame maybe Anita Dunn. Maybe they can blame Ron Klain. But at the end of the day, they can blame one person. They can blame Biden. Right now, we've got the documents from Hunter Biden's laptop. We see the connections. He's got photos of the documents on his laptop. Which is
amazing because that should have been the thing.
Right.
There was a lot of incriminating shit there.
Yeah.
And the rest of us that was a speed bump.
Well, and think about the FBI hides the laptop, right? The FBI hides the laptop and goes to Facebook, Twitter, and other big tech and silences them on that story. So they knew about this ahead of time. Right. So how much of awareness did you have about even these documents being out there, or were they planted? I mean, this is the greater question.
Oh, so your point, and that's a good point, that they could have hid these documents from us just as easily as they were hiding the laptop.
Right. They have the laptop. They did
since November.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is and I'm no Trump fan. I just want to preface this by saying this, but at this point, this is worse than what Trump what happened to Trump with those documents.
Right.
And why the stuff that's in and how he got them and the fact that they were in a garage where his son washed his Corvette. Like,
and
it's
so
worse.
And they raided his home. They raided his home. And in this, they have this FBI cooperates and shows up and does a visit. I mean, we're just visiting. We're just going to hang out at Biden's house.
A prearranged
visit.
Well, with Biden, they made an appointment. With Trump, they didn't.
They just showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. While he's out of town, by the way.
Right.
So, and then the lawyers have to even fight to get in and have a conversation with them in the Trump situation, right? And, you know, and in this situation, they wouldn't even show them the subpoena, like in the Trump situation.
Right.
And there was a subpoena. So is there a subpoena here? No, it's just a visit. It's a friendly visit from your neighborhood FBI agents. Just wanted to see some documents at the Biden house. Something's fishy. But I'm saying, I'm going on the record. I'll go on the record once again. He does not finish out this term. If he does, it's going to be like a cyborg. It literally will be some sort of artificial intelligence propped up, like Weekend at Bernie's meat bag.
And do they let him then? I mean, in light of the Jacinda Ardern resignation last week,
right?
And then thinking about like the same forces at power possibly pushing out Biden, that's scarier than just one country run by a deep state. That's several. That is a cabal. It's terrifying.
It's the World Economic Forum.
So
it's the World Health
then
Organization.
do they let him make an announcement of re-election? Do we even get that far? So when is the State of the Union? Let's take a like over under. Isn't that how they do it in basketball? It's like
it's the 28th. I think the state. It's coming up here really, really shortly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so by the end of the month, or
Well, I don't know. We get that soon. I think they may let. The thing is, if he really is in his head that he's going to run, then they are going to torpedo the crap out of him in a much bigger way. He will be primaried. Right now, there's no one running. It's like silence.
Yes.
Right. Even on
yeah.
the Republican side, we've got maybe DeSantis and you've got Trump. It's silence right now. This might be the smallest group of people running that we've seen in a long time. Think about it, we have like 20 Republicans, like during Trump was running, we had like 20 Democrats running.
Because all the major candidates have FBI knocking at their door.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton, and it's only Obama who doesn't seem to have that we know of.
So let us know what you guys think about this. What's your prediction? Let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments about this. And we will kind of circle back on this. We're going to stay on top of this story. This is a story, though, that the mainstream media is going to ignore because they're part of it. So thank you for subscribing and being a part of our channel here on Redacted. We'll cover the story, and we'll cover the nuances of this story as it unfolds. We will indeed. We're going to cover also what's going on in Ukraine. We're hearing really interesting stuff this afternoon and over the past 24 hours from the former Zelensky. One of Zelensky's top aides is now spilling the beans, and major concerns about a civil war breaking out in Ukraine. And what that might look like as this country descends into chaos, as NATO continues to want to send additional weapons and supplies and money into that country, despite all signs that that's a huge mistake. So we'll get to Ukraine. We're also going to talk about the egg crisis and what's really behind that, and some more World Economic Forum panel discussions on brain transparency. We'll talk about that.
Or mind control, however you decide to see it. But first, we want to tell you about a new friend of the show called Nom Nom. Now, Nom Nom Now is the name of the company. We're going to call it Nom Nom. Now, your pet is a member of the family, so don't feed them like they're in the doghouse. We're going to talk later about feeding your pets, by the way. It's important. Nom Nom delivers fresh dog food with every portion personalized to your dog's needs so you can bring out their very best. Nom Nom's made with real whole food that you can see and recognize. It looks like food without any additives or fillers that contribute to bloating and low energy. That's because Nom Nom uses the latest science and insights to make real food for real dogs. Their nutrient-packed recipes are crafted by board-certified veterinary nutritionists, made fresh and shipped to your door, which is awesome because you know the story about pets.com and how during the first .com boom, they couldn't make it work because they were trying to ship like 60-pound bags of dog food, and turns out that's pretty expensive. But the idea of getting fresh food delivered on a regular basis for your dog, that's something that could actually work. That's a good marriage between pet food, and the internet. So right now, you can try it for 50% off your no-risk 2-week trial if you go to trynom.com/redacted. Once again, it's trynom.com/redacted. That's trynom.com/redacted, and you get 50% off your trial so that you can feed your pets the best possible food so that they have a good, healthy life for as long as they can with you and your family.
We'll put that URL in the description below. So if you're driving right now, we know we have a lot of drivers who listen to our show, truck drivers and cab drivers and Uber drivers. Much love to all of you guys who are working really hard. If you've got pets at home, we'll put that URL in the description. So if you're
pets
I'm
going out with you
right now.
Are you for your pups? Yeah, me too.
I mean, I want to try it because I'm always looking for better food for her because she's a little picky, and I looked at this food and like see the beef chunks and potato chunks. Like it looks like not the mashed stuff she gets from the other ones that we use. So I'm gonna definitely try this.
A lot of those, like when you want to give them wet food, they have a high sugar content, and it's not good for them, even though they love it. So it's good to find personalized food for your dog that is it's great.
Indeed.
It looks like people food. Looks delicious.
Thanks for subscribing, everyone. If you subscribe to the channel while you're watching live, we really appreciate your name will pop up right here on the big board. We're live on Rumble. We're live on YouTube. A little bit later, we're going to be moving over to Rumble exclusively, as we will like to do, because we'd like to give them some love. And you can join our Rumble channel at rumble.com/redacted. So a little bit later in the show, we'll move over there and continue the live stream unfettered by censorship. It's so funny to watch the World Economic Forum videos be taken down on YouTube over the past week. Like a lot of the work that Rebel News was doing, there was a whole bunch of videos of different things, like Albert Bourla being like, and boy, Pfizer went right after him. And so for what reason? Like what justification can they provide YouTube to have videos taken down of reporters asking questions of a Pfizer CEO?
Right.
Oh, doesn't matter. Because when you're in cahoots with big tech, it just gets taken down. They just call them up. They're like, hey, head of YouTube, this is Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer. Take those videos down. Click.
And it's done. Who was saying something?
Wasn't Rebel News the ones that Trudeau specifically called out as being not journalists?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you aren't journalists. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to revoke
I'm not even going to call your organization that.
Yeah, I'm not going to even justify, or I'm not going to even...
I wouldn't even call
refer to you as a
news
media
or something
organization.
like that. Yeah.
Dignify you.
Good memory. I had forgotten that it was them.
Yeah. All right, we've got more news to get to. Let's talk about Ukraine now, shall we? Because, boy, the mess continues in that country. And now to the greatest propaganda campaign ever waged against humanity, which is the war in Ukraine. This afternoon, former Russian President Medvedev once again saying that the world is on the brink of World War III, which I say we're already in it, but really we're already there. But maybe we'll just pull off the nomenclature and actually start really saying that
it's our war.
It's fully
instead
in
of
World War
the
III.
war that's over there.
We're fully in it, yeah. So here's what he's saying. Thanks to NATO sending more weapons, the world on the brink of World War III due to West escalating. That's what Medvedev is saying. The world has come close to the threat of World War III due to impending U.S. aggression against the Russian Federation. And specifically, he's talking about Crimea and the coming attacks that are going to unfold there as we send tanks and additional armor. And Foreign Minister Lavrov for the Russian Federation saying no one rightly can call this, quote, a hybrid war anymore. I think he's right. We haven't been calling it a hybrid war for many, many months. It's been World War III on this show. When you have all of NATO in Ukraine funneling and launching weapons against and launching attacks against Russia, what else is it? Like, can you name it anything else? Until you, I guess, have ground forces there, maybe that's when you could officially call it. But in this age, in 2022, 2023, the wars aren't fought the same way anymore, right?
No.
So this is World War III.
And the majority
this is a modern
of them,
World War III.
The majority of them are fought with sanctions. I mean, that is an act of war. That kills people.
Right.
Yes, yeah. They're called sanctions of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was on this weekend. I spent some time with Gonzalo Lira and Alexander Mercurius from the Duran. We had a great conversation. We were talking about this, specifically about the idea of sanctions and how this is a sanctions war, and that's really what it's come down to. And it's failed. The West has failed in that regard, although the Western media is spinning in a totally different way. But
my God, it's outrageous.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I want you to save your powder.
And just really quick, just to say, like, if you think about the World War, you're talking about World War III. How many countries does the U.S. have sanctions on right now? Like, we are a world war aggressor with our sanctions.
Most of them, yeah.
Right.
Most of them.
So we've got some big updates on massive military weapons heading into Ukraine. New body count numbers that are just shocking. And as Ukraine's slipping into a civil war, a lot to unpack in Ukraine. First, why the hell is former disgraced Prime Minister Boris Johnson flying into Kiev yesterday to have meetings with Zelensky again? He did this over the weekend. Watch.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your help.
Notice the Steadicam camera footage here.
You shouldn't have bothered. Oh, dear. I'm too honored. And you do me too much honor, Mr. President. You do me too much honor. You do me too much honor. It is to see you, Boris. It is amazing to see you. Welcome. How are you? Very, very good. Very, very good. Great to see you. It's an absolute honor to...
We got all our camera crews out here. We got our Steadicams. Watch as they go inside and sit down at the desks. And I mean, like, what?
Where did he think he was going? He said, you shouldn't have bothered. Like, you came, Mr. President. Like, who did he think he was meeting with?
And he only knew he could start talking like half a block away because he was mic'd up with a lapel microphone.
Right. It's all staged. It's all theater. Right. Good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, or a boom mic or something. He's got a lapel microphone on or a boom mic, and they've got steady cams. Like, they got the whole theater production out there for them to show up. Then watch as he walks into they go into the office building. Then they're sitting down at the desk here. You can see them sitting down. And after they shake hands and they're getting down to business, he's got his portfolio. I love that all these cameras are there. But what power does he have to even be there? He's not prime minister anymore. Boris is something of a harbinger because every time there's some kind of talk of peace, Ukraine coming to the table to the end of the war, Boris flies in and torpedoes
with combed hair. Effort. This is also weird.
Well, I think it's just damp because the sleet and the rain.
Look at all the positive stuff Winston Churchill did when he wasn't prime minister. You know what I mean? Like, he still was kind of active, doing some things. And
but he didn't bring peace the last time.
His country.
Maybe. So I think that Boris is something of a harbinger because every time there's some talk of peace, Ukraine coming to the table to end the war, Boris flies in and torpedoes the peace effort. Do you know the word harbinger? Do you know what it means, right? It means a person or a thing that signals the start of something.
It's a canary in a coal mine.
It could be good or bad, a harbinger of bad things to come or good things to come. But for Boris, it's a harbinger of more bloodshed. Every time that Boris shows up, peace disappears. More weapons suddenly appear inside of Ukraine. So what the hell is he doing there? He's not prime minister anymore. Meanwhile, a lot of people are dying. A new report from Germany today says that Ukraine is losing three-digit numbers of soldiers per day. That's hundreds of people per day.
In fact, yes, the German Federal Intelligence Service finds this alarming. Now, this comes at a day when the West is everyone's irked by Germany not wanting to continue to send the heaviest, dutiest, if that's a word, weapons. And they're saying, we're a little disturbed by all the dying. We all should be. Yeah.
So maybe we don't want to send these Leopard tanks because so many people are dying. There's an idea. Imagine that idea. And that's because all of these weapons being sent in by NATO. And so these people are being turned into cannon fodder. So next to the Civil War part of the story. So that's the German death toll. That's Boris flying in. Now to the Civil War part of the story. Top advisor to Zelensky, Alexei Arestovich, is now out of power and he's unshackled. Now, you remember Arestovich, he was the guy that told the truth about the apartment bombing in Dnipro about a week ago, how it was Ukraine's fault. He was forced out of office for telling the truth. And now he's spilling the beans on a number of big topics, including civil war, Zelensky. But first he talks about the failure of the Ukraine military. And in an interview this weekend, Arestovich says it's unlikely that Ukraine will win this war. Now, I apologize. He's speaking in Ukrainian. It's subtitled. I'm not going to speak over him, but I will paraphrase it once we're done playing this clip. If you're driving and you want to hear it later, I'll explain it, but roll it.
Официальное лицо уже, могу говорить, что хочу. Если все думают, что мы гарантированно выиграем войну, то очень не похоже. С 14 числа уже перестало быть на это похоже. Как бы, очень сильно. Как вы думаете, оценку от Дуды, от президента Польши, что месяц, и не только он сказал про решающие месяцы, что вообще неизвестно, выживет ли Украина, она просто так было сказано, или он на основе какой-то информации говорил об этом?
So he's saying that, of course, President Duda of Poland also saying that Ukraine won't survive. And it's very unlikely, he says, that Ukraine will survive this. Or that they would win the war.
Is he hiding somewhere? Because we know what Zelensky does to detractors.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he's gotten out of there because he's spilling the beans all weekend. So, talking to the press, and he's not holding back against what he's saying about Zelensky. He also admitted that this is an amazing thing that he admitted. He admitted that Russia, when they launched the special military operation, now he's saying this about Russia, that when Russia launched the special military operation, they found from them that Russia didn't want one person to be killed. He's saying this. He's saying they wanted a surrender with no bloodshed, no one would be hurt. And that's what Arestovich is saying. I'm going to read from the transcript here. He says, they tried to wage a smart war, such an elegant, beautiful, lightning-fast operation where polite people, without causing any damage to either a kitten or a child, he says, eliminated the few who resisted. And they didn't even eliminate them, but offered us to surrender, switch sides, understand, and etc. They didn't want to kill anyone, just sign the renunciation. In another interview this weekend, Arestovich has gone on to slam the political war that Zelensky has waged on Ukraine's Russian-speaking population. Also, the Christian Orthodox Church, he says Zelensky's an idiot for instigating Russia and bringing them to our doorstep, attacking and vilifying ethnic Russians that lived in Ukraine. That line alone really undermines the whole unprovoked war garbage that CNN has liked to parrot, right? I mean, because he also says Zelensky has declared war on Christianity. Yes. So, I mean, the whole thing has been, it's an unprovoked war. It's an unprovoked war. But here he is, Zelensky's top aide, saying that Zelensky's an idiot and what the Ukrainian government has done has instigated them and bringing Russia to our doorstep. So here is this part of that interview. Watch.
Є такий наратив, хай їдуть в Росію.
Вони і поїдуть в Росію. Або зроблять так, щоб Росія приїхала сюди. І що тоді? Хто ідіот в цій ситуації? Розумієте? У нас дуже нерозумна національна політика і регіональна політика. Взагалі, не національна політика роботи з ідентифікацією. Навіть Радянський Союз краще її проводив, ніж ми. Що в Ізраїлі нема офіційних мов, але друга мова фактично, яка повсюди використовується, арабська, тобто мова їх ворогів. Може, євреї трохи щось знають, розуміють, чого не знаємо ми. Ми відділяємо. Ми кажемо, що всі росіяни погані і хороших росіян не існує. А як чують нас етнічні росіяни в Україні? Або російськомовні? Що вони чують? Ви вороги. Він достає свій український паспорт, він пригадує двоюродного брата, який загинув під Бахмутом, будучи російськомовним солдатом ЗСУ, і каже, да пішла нам нахер та страна з такими подачами. А їхати нема куди, і він залишається в Україні, але в скритій опозиції до України. Тому що Україна поводиться як повні мудаки зі своїми собственними громадянами. Оце і все, що є. Зеленський оголосив війну християнству. Це коли Служба безпеки зайшла в Києво-Печерську лавру і в інші лаври. В Українську церкву Московського патріархату. Зважаючи на складні процеси, які там відбуваються, і на те, щоб поступово перетягувати, а це завжди непростий процес, перетягувати їх на свій бік.
So how do you pull people to our side when you literally are sending the secret police inside churches and attacking Christianity? Mm-hmm. How are you going to win the hearts and minds of people when you literally treat ethnic Russians who live in the Donbass like garbage?
Right.
He said our foreign policy, our policy
and
is totally unreasonable.
And they say, that's my cousin. That's how he died because of,
This is Zelensky's top aide. I cannot underscore this enough. This was, up until last week, the top guy, the top advisor to Zelensky. And he's the one that admitted that this apartment bombing was Ukraine's fault. And here he is. I mean, this is an unbelievable.
I mean, he did apologize right before. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. I quit then. And now the gloves are off. And he's like, I'm going to tell you what it's really like behind closed doors. This is unbelievable video footage, but a lot of what we have been saying all along, that it's a mess of a platform to support the war in Ukraine right now. What is the platform? You can't even tell.
David, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, unfortunately, this is going to fall on a lot of deaf ears. And even by showing that actual footage of this guy saying it, we're still going to be called Putin apologists. He's probably now a Putin apologist and is now getting a check from Moscow, from the Kremlin, like the rest of us. You know, my check's doesn't come, but I hear it's on the way.
He's a Putin apologist now.
Right.
Literally, Zelensky. He's Ukrainian and Zelensky's top aide, and now he's a Putin apologist, right?
But I think that anybody who wants
to...
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, if I was that guy, I would avoid standing near any windows. I would publicly say, I don't stand near windows.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you didn't see a window in that he's behind cement walls, windowless cement walls. But again, the people who would call us a Russian apologist wouldn't really know what it is they're standing on behalf of for Ukraine, other than a media narrative of independence.
Earlier, when I posted the show, the live show, someone in the chat before the show started posted a comment, says, well, about civil war. Well, didn't the war in Ukraine start as a civil war? No. I mean, it started as a genocide. That's what it started as. I mean, that's how it started for the past 8 years, the people of the Donbass being killed on a regular basis, tens of thousands of them being attacked. So that's how it started. It didn't start with any sort of back and forth fighting at all. To me, one of the biggest parts of this interview is when he talks about what's next for Ukraine. He said essentially that Ukraine is coming apart at the seams, a civil war, and will devolve into a civil war where Ukrainians will, quote, be at each other's throats. He says that when this happens, it's game over. Ukraine will be a country ripped apart by itself, ripped in half by itself. But Arestovich has been telling the truth for years. In fact, a newly unearthed interview of Arestovich that I found fascinating this weekend, I wanted to share with you, confirming that a large-scale war with Russia was planned. He says this is Zelensky's top aide once again, saying that a large-scale war with Russia was planned by the Ukrainian regime, all with a goal of joining NATO at the end of the day. He said this in 2019. It's amazing. Watch this.
Если Украина получает выдачи в НАТО, то тогда мы можем говорить о каких-то сроках прекращения войны.
Нет, ни о каких сроках прекращения войны мы не будем говорить. Наоборот, это, скорее всего, подтолкнет крупные военные операции России против Украины. Потому что они должны нас будут просадить в инфраструктурном отношении и превратить здесь все в разваленную территорию для того, чтобы нас неохотно брали.
То есть Россия сможет пойти на прямую конфронтацию с НАТО?
Конечно, Россия, нет, не НАТО. Мы не успеем. Они должны это сделать до того, как мы вступим в НАТО, чтобы мы не были интересны НАТО. Перестали быть интересны, как разваленная территория. С вероятностью 99,9% наша цена за вступление в НАТО – это большая война с Россией. А если мы не вступим в НАТО, это поглощение России в течение 10-12 лет. Вот и вся вилка, в которой мы находимся. А теперь давайте выбирайте Зеленского.
Подождите, теперь если поставить чашу на весу, а что лучше в таком случае?
Конечно, крупная война с Россией и переход в НАТО по результатам победы над Россией.
The coolest thing.
So think about that, right? We know that by provoking Russia, they're going to destroy us. I'm saying this. That's what he's telling you. If we provoke them, the Ukrainian regime provokes them, they're going to destroy us. Because if NATO keeps extending itself and NATO keeps provoking them, they're not going to allow NATO to walk up to their door. And they knew it. He was calling it out.
Well, then think about he gave two scenarios, and both of them end up with Russia absorbing Ukraine.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see how he thought that they could win and then join NATO as a shell of its former self.
Right. Well, of course, if you understand now, and this is what we're going to get to next here, is the idea of Ukraine being a shell of itself. It's a perfect staging ground, right? It's a testing ground for NATO weapons, and that's really what it is. It's an empty military base that they can use, and to the tanks now, because that's
it becomes an aircraft carrier right on the verge of Asia.
Right. So
on the border of Asia.
So to the tanks now, NATO and Ukraine want Germany to send them Leopard tanks. They only have a few hundred of them to begin with, not the 2,000 tanks that some people are saying they have. I saw military analysts this weekend ridiculous news clip saying they have thousands. Germany has thousands of them. They don't. And Germany looked like they were going to cave in on this and send these tanks. They decided not to. The Prime Minister of Poland says that he will set up a smaller coalition to hand over some of the tanks that they have. So listen to the brilliance of this. We've been covering Poland, right? So Poland has bought Leopard tanks from Germany, but they're not like the most up-to-date versions of them. They're like hand-me-down versions of the Leopard tanks. So Poland bought those from Germany. Now, Poland, which is broke and collapsing, is going to send their bought used Leopard tanks to Ukraine because Germany is not going to send new ones now to Ukraine. So they're going to unload. It's like cleaning out the warehouse.
That's nice of them.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Ukraine said Friday that it will be training soldiers to use these new tanks in Poland, while Russia says that these types of supplies will change something on the battlefield. Russia says that, what is it going to be like World War III? Russia said yesterday that everything that the West sends, we will destroy. And Russia earlier last week said that it doesn't matter what you want to call it, a tank, an armored vehicle, a Humvee. They said, Russian Foreign Minister Peskov said, they all burn the same. They will all burn the same. So just keep sending them. Just keep spending our money and sending them so that Russia can keep destroying them. It's madness. Absolute freaking madness.
Well, it does seem like the United States is not going to just keep sending them. In fact, last Friday, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Mark Milley gave a statement in Germany.
At Ramstein, yeah.
And they said, well, we really think that the United States and NATO are going to go on the offensive to liberate Russian-occupied Ukraine. What does that mean? Go on the offensive. That doesn't mean we're going to train you on our toasters and then off you go.
Yeah.
Does that mean boots on the ground? Is that something that then, because President Biden has repeatedly said no boots on the ground, is this another reason that he may have the deep state turning against him? Because the military industrial complex seems to be ready to put boots on the ground.
And we've been speaking to people who work in the Polish government who are, speaking out at great risk to themselves, who are talking about the collapse of Poland under its own weight, basically now, with all of the Ukrainian refugees that have poured, 5 million of them at last count across the border, going to small towns all across all across Poland. They're not even hearing Polish being spoken anymore. It's Ukrainian. Social services overwhelmed. I see someone in the chat saying, Blue Panda says, it's not so bad in Poland. We have a few friends there that say it's okay in some spots. That's not exactly high praise, but
it's okay in some places.
It's okay in one.
What's interesting to me is so Germany had come out and said that they're not going to send these tanks, but they said that Poland is allowed to. Right. I mean, that basically makes Poland a proxy into a proxy war.
Right.
Like, we're going to fight our proxy war through another proxy. We're not going to. So I wonder if that's what the U.S. will do then. We'll be like, well, here, Poland, here's a bunch of new tanks. We don't mind if you send them to Ukraine. We're just not giving them to you.
Well, we've already been doing that, right? That's what Poland has become already. We send so many things to Poland, and then Poland brings it across the border. It sends it directly on rail lines from Poland right into Ukraine. So it is a proxy. It's absolutely been a proxy. You're right about that. And then, of course, Polish mercenaries and Polish soldiers are in Ukraine, the largest contingent of foreign fighters using these weapons. This is, by all accounts, a world war.
It's where they're all getting trained, too.
Yeah, they're getting trained in Poland. I mean, so the idea, I guess, is that western part of Ukraine then, speculation, but carved up and absorbed by Poland eventually. So the east gets absorbed by Russia. The west gets absorbed by Poland. What's left in the middle is like George Soros-owned farmland that's used for NATO testing grounds. I don't know, that whatever becomes of Ukraine. I wanted to finish on this because I wanted to get your take on this. So Natalie and I were texting earlier today about this ridiculous Wall Street Journal piece. Sorry, you can skip ahead to the Wall Street Journal piece, which is Ukraine war lands Europe's leaders in a battle of wills, was the headline.
So it is about this confrontation between Germany and other NATO leaders who want to send more tanks. It's a ridiculous story. You see there, Olaf Scholz, like he's sniffing a tank and saying, is this suitable to send over? What's this tank here? Does it hurt people? I don't know. But the lead on this story was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Again, it's just about world leaders converging on their desire to be pulled into a war. And here's how they lead it. Europe is winning its energy war with Russia. What the hell does that have to do with anything? The region's economy and politics are proving more stable than its leaders feared earlier in the confrontation with Moscow. Again, this is about tanks. Now the question is facing them is whether they want Ukraine to win the shooting war. So the sanctions thing, that worked out for you guys. That was a good thing. Keep on. The weapons bit, they're not so sure about. So now they're going to fight about that. I don't think the sanctions thing is a done deal. I don't think that's working out. Like how? By reverting to coal? The economies are still hurting. This is just a story about how Germany doesn't want to be dragged further into this war, and protests are raging all throughout Europe. And now leaders are starting to show that they are hearing this. But the Wall Street Journal is like pulling Jedi mind tricks on them. Like, no, you're fine. You are not hurting. You're winning.
Yeah, I think it's because people are happy to pay the higher prices because they know they're sticking it to Putin. So it's like, then is it a bad thing if everybody's happy to pay the higher prices? It's only bad if they can't afford it and, are struggling.
That is the narrative, right? But it's just not true. And it's just the weirdest piece of propaganda that I've ever seen, like a lead to a Wall Street Journal piece saying, Europe is winning the war, with Russia. It's in the energy field. But now let's talk about the weapons bit of it. They need to keep doing that too. And so there's some, internal strife. The good old boys are upset at, Olaf Scholz there, but he's going to come around. Is how the story's written when that's not a foregone conclusion at all.
No, and the sanctions have been a disaster for the West. And of course, I just did a story this weekend about how disastrous it's been and the energy crisis that Europe is facing. This winter is bad. It's going to be disaster next winter. This is like the testing ground for it. It's the built-up problem will be next winter. When all of those available stores are down, available stockpiles are down, it's going to be a total crap show. Let us know your thoughts on this.
Can you go back to that picture really quick? Before, I know you're moving on, but before, go back to that picture really quick. It looks like after that guy's sniffing, he's going to look up and go, inconceivable.
A little bit.
Or hit his head, or Olaf Scholz will hit his head right on the turret.
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to get at with that picture.
Yeah. Well, we've got more news to get to here on this Monday. And while you're watching us, please subscribe to the channel and share this out. If you'd be so kind, actually, I forgot to even mention this. I haven't done this in like months. If you would be so kind and just share out the show right now, just click on the share button or press the like button, but maybe share it out with a friend, text it out, tweet it out, whatever. That would help tremendously. Also, just pressing the like button really helps push us further out in the algorithm, both on Rumble and on YouTube, so more people can see, real news. I mean, that's what we try to bring you here, not fake corporate news. So we've got more news to get to. We're going to talk about this egg shortage in a second. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Moomoo, because they just updated their app with an incredible new earnings calendar. So if you've ever been like learning how to trade and you want to, follow different companies, you want to know when their earnings are coming out. How is this particular gold producer going to do? Did they hit a big vein of gold and they're now or this silver company or this uranium company or Disney or whatever you like to follow, Netflix, etc. Whatever stocks you're interested in investing in. The earnings calendar is powerful, so you can say, okay, Tuesday, January 31st, that is when the earnings for this company is coming out. Now they've built it inside of Moomoo. I can tell you this is a huge game changer, because I used to have to use like a Facebook group to try to get the earnings calendars. It was a disaster. So now they've built it right inside of it. Really, really great user-friendly interface. Moomoo provides clean-cut, bite-sized analysis pieces covering 25 of the most popular stocks in the United States and Australia on what to expect in upcoming earnings calls. You can join the other 19 million plus like-minded users in discussions around these topics to exchange ideas and insights on them. And now it can help you add to your U.S. and Australian companies' stock portfolios by their earnings release dates. Put them right on your calendar. You can kind of follow along and see if it's a company you'd want to invest in. So we love Moomoo. You can get 15 free stocks right now just by opening a Moomoo account. It's a trading platform that I love. I use their alerts every day to monitor different stocks that I'm watching, and whether it's ETFs or just general stocks options, ADRs, OTCs, all of it built right inside of Moomoo. So here's how you get it. All you need to do is go to redacted.inc/Moomoo to get 15 free stocks after you open your account and you make a qualified deposit. Get up to 15 free stocks. You can enjoy low margin rates and zero commission trading. Go to redacted.inc/Moomoo. Today we'll have a link in the description so you can start taking advantage of their great offers. So our thanks to them for supporting the show.
All right. Do you know the saying, what's that got to do with the price of eggs?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you about the price of eggs. I've been waiting my whole life to use that one. Are eggs the new gas? People around the world are panicking about eggs. You may already have known this because without eggs, you have no baked goods.
It's a disaster.
You have no diner food.
I mean, this is a main staple of people's diets, and it's
ours included.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Now, CNN tells us that this is just our patriotic duty to suffer high egg prices because Russia, take a look at the lead over the weekend. Eggs have soared and the cost around the world because of avian flu and also fallout from Russia's war with Ukraine underlined, raising the prices of energy and animal feed. I mean, they don't really expand on the Russian bit. They just assume that you believe that Russia is making everything more expensive because of the sanctions that the West imposed on themselves. And oh yes, avian flu on pretty much every continent. I mean, you can look up pretty much every country plus eggs and find a news article about how eggs are. Here is an advisory out of South America, the Americans. There's an advisory in Mexico now. In fact, in Mexico, they're finding eggs being smuggled across the border.
Forget drugs.
You're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to bring agriculture or livestock across the border, and that is happening. One farmer in the UK went viral last week for calling foul on this narrative. Get it? Foul. This is Ian Humphreys. He is at That Welsh Farmer on Twitter and YouTube as well. He's got kind of a fun channel. I went down a rabbit hole today watching all about egg farming. And he says that this is actually not because of those reasons. Here, listen to his explanation. He is actually an egg farmer.
Better get this one out there before the supermarkets put their story across and cancel everyone else out. So when you go into a supermarket now, you might see that there is a bit of an egg shortage. So not many eggs on the shelf to buy, not free range, not organic, nothing. So you're struggling to find eggs. Supermarkets are going to tell you this is because of avian flu. Which, to be fair, there has been a lot of cases of avian flu. But do you want to know the real reason why there's an egg shortage? It's because the supermarkets won't pay the farmers for the eggs. So the supermarkets have upped their price for you, the consumer. But they haven't filtered that price increase down to us, the farmers. So our cost of producing these eggs has skyrocketed. Feed, electric, the price of new birds, that's gone up. But our price of eggs has stayed the same. So we physically can't afford to produce these eggs. So currently there's been 8 million less free-range hens ordered for next year's flocks. So that's just under 8 million eggs every day that we're not going to be producing. So that's 8 million eggs less every single day that we don't produce. And we're already 3 million eggs short of being self-sufficient. So the UK have to import 3 million eggs every day to feed the nation. And now we're losing another 8 million birds because the supermarkets won't pay us. And they're going to blame the farmers. They'll be like, oh, well, the farmers should just stock them and produce you great British food. But we can't afford to. If the supermarkets paid us a fair price for our eggs, then we would stock our sheds and there would be more sheds going up and the UK could be self-sufficient in great British eggs. But the supermarkets won't pay us. So if you can make any sense of that, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. But yeah, the current egg shortage isn't really due to avian flu. It's because the supermarkets are refusing to pay us a fair price for our produce.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is going on here, guys? I mean, there's an agenda behind this.
Yeah, we're going to unpack that a little bit more. Go ahead.
You guys have chickens, right? Am I correct?
Oh, I'm going to show you my chickens. Yeah.
So I saw a farmer, because I went down a rabbit hole too about eggs, and he was saying that now egg-producing hens are about $25 to $35 a hen. Is that expensive? Because I thought that's cheap.
Whoa.
Is that expensive?
No, our chickens were €3.
Yeah. I mean, they are €2. I think €2 and €3. Like, that's basically
That's a
$1.
lot.
It's like a $2. Like, it should not be $30, $40. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Wow.
That's clucking ridiculous.
That's a good one. Now, he says that the dairy industry is also suffering from the same, so it's all connected. This is that Welsh farmer's friend, Evs the tractor. It's like they're all friends with Thomas the Train with all of these. But take a look at this dairy farmer suffering very much the same.
Evening all. Just want to have a little chat about the dairy industry, really, and what's going on. Obviously, the eggs shortages have been well documented this week. Supermarkets lying again, as usual. Anyway, dairy. Oh, interesting times. Told tonight that a certain retailer has put the price of their milk up by 10 pence per litre in store, where we're facing a 3 to 5 pence per litre cut in our milk price, apparently, come the new year. There's a few industry commentators have mentioned it a number of times. Yeah, beggars belief, really. Considering where on-farm costs have gone, we've got a 30% increase in, a 30% on-farm inflation cost. Electric on-farm here gone up from sort of 38,000 to 144,000. Feed costs mixed in with the silage that these girls are enjoying has gone up to £365 a tonne from sort of 240, 250 last year. Diesel and fertiliser obviously has been well documented in the press. Now then, where it sticks in the throat is that retailers, they can do whatever the hell they like. That's their aim in life is to protect their margin all the time. Unfortunately, we can't protect our margin because we're price takers. Now then, all we're asking is a little bit of fairness to reflect the costs of production, because these girls don't know any different. They're just quite happy grubbing away, producing the milk. We're quite happy to milk them, feed them, put a roof over their heads, things like that. But it just a little bit of understanding, a little bit of respect towards consumer and producer. That's all we ask.
Now, where is those inflated prices going? Because we are paying more for milk and eggs and bread and everything. But if it's not actually going to the producers, where is it going? Record profits for the grocers? So they say that supermarkets are just not passing down these increased costs that you are paying. And you are indeed paying more for eggs. Take a look at the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics price of eggs over the last few years. You can see that since 2001, just upward trajectory down at the back. Skyrocketing. These are averages, average price per dozen. But if you look at in the U.S. how this bears out by state, in some states, Hawaii, they're paying close to $10 an egg. I'm sorry, a dozen. I've seen in the chat when we asked earlier, some of you are saying you're paying above 10 as well. One person said they paid like £1.50 in the UK for a dozen. I call foul on that. I would like to see that. Ember Spirit in our chat says eggs are $1.10 for 10 eggs in Moscow right now. Get the hell out of here. No, and there was a reporter that I think we featured it here on the show. I don't remember who went to Moscow and went to all of the different grocery stores, Moscow, and then out into the rural area, not just in Moscow, and also confirmed these prices. Like, they're not having this problem. So when they want to tell us like that the sanctions are working against Russia, No, in fact,
people, yeah.
I read a book last year called Wilding by a woman whose family were dairy farmers. And they just could not get around all of the different government programs. They couldn't make it work anymore. They had to close down, and it was a complicated story of finance. But if you are not basically subsidized by the government, you will be destroyed by them. And now, it's interesting that how can countries all around the world be having this same thing happening, these same market forces?
Well,
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, do you think it's anything kind of like, because now that you just said it's global, my theory doesn't make sense. But you know how gas is regulated by a federal government body? Does the FDA regulate the prices of those things? And that's where the increase is coming from. And so it's almost as if, they're only subsidizing certain farmers that are going to get certain eggs like they do corn. They subsidize high fructose corn syrup producing corn manufacturers. So maybe they're trying to weed out the organic, the fresh, the good stuff and get this, whatever it is they're trying to get into the grocery store. So maybe it's an inflation by the FDA or something. Like that's kind of what I was wondering.
There's not like an interest rate on which that all price of eggs are, based upon throughout the world. So I don't think that is it so much, but I do think that there are increasing pressures on farmers that it's making their lives miserable. Take a look at this next story about Malaysia. Malaysia is having an egg shortage, and so they're importing from India. And they're saying, they also used to get eggs from New Zealand, but now they cannot. Well, in New Zealand, there is one explanation, and that is change to farming laws, which we've talked about the Jacinda Ardern administration. In fact, in New Zealand, their egg shortage has been linked to long anticipated changes in farming law, which took effect just January 1 of this year. The law prohibits the production of eggs from chickens kept in conventional or battery cages, which are cramped metal spaces that don't provide adequate welfare for hens, according to the SPCA. That's why in 2012, the government announced a ban. Well, the problem is that this was always going to mean fewer eggs. So they're saying, hey, farmers had 10 years to prepare for this, but how are they going to do that? By either reducing the amount of chickens that they have or deforesting more land. And where do they get the money and the land to deforest that? So if you enact these laws, the farmers didn't just go out and say, great, I have more land and I'll just give them all of these, even in I think it's Jonathan Safran Foer's book about eating animals, he realizes you can't feed the planet on free-ranged animals. You have to have them in smaller spaces if we're all going to eat like we eat now, or else we don't, which we've talked about a lot. So is it a coincidence that we are told that there are bird flus and, oh yeah, Russia and all of their sanctions at the same time that these climate laws are taking place in New Zealand all in the same few weeks? That's really hard to believe. In fact,
there are no coincidences on this show.
Right.
That should be our new tagline. There are no coincidences.
There's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or is there just more going on, something more nefarious going on?
Yes.
Something that in the feed that is creating a shortage. Well, here is a fellow chicken owner trying to figure out why her chickens have not been laying eggs at the exact same time that there is a global egg shortage. Now, chicken owners on TikTok are a big thing. It's a big community. I know this. Now, this woman says she's got 16 chickens, and normally she gets about a dozen eggs per day. But recently, it's just gone down to 1 egg per week. Now, I surmise from her sweater that she lives in the north, the frozen Northeast, and chickens lay a lot less in the winter, but not 1 per week. So listen to her experiment to see what the heck's going on
with the chicken
with
feed.
her chickens.
What if they're taking something out or putting something in, everything like these umbrella corporations, they own lots of little companies, right? So what if this umbrella corporation is taking something out of the food, causing the chickens to not lay eggs so that we have to buy eggs at the store for nearly $10 a dozen, right? It's not improbable. So this week I had an idea. I'm going to make my own feed and we're going to see what happens. So I went to the store where we usually buy our feed. It's a farm supply store. And I bought whole wheat, corn, black sunflower seeds, safflower seeds, flax seeds, lentils, tons of really good stuff, lots of nutrients. So I started feeding the chickens this stuff on Monday. Today is Sunday. 6 days. I've gotten 10 eggs this week. This was from this morning. There were 2 broken eggs out there. It's the food. It's absolutely the food.
So what is in the chicken food that's making even those of us who have chickens can't get our eggs? And the price of eggs, in fact, recently my brother-in-law took our chickens off of feed because he's from Mexico and his mom coaches him on how to keep our chickens. And she's like, if they're free range, they don't need that feed. So they eat our compost. And they free range all throughout. In fact, I took this little video of them this afternoon because they're super cute with our rooster Bravo. Just letting you know, you can play this if you want, and I'll talk over it because they don't talk. They don't speak English. And
yeah, and they'll eat bugs and
they're doing great. They did have a bit of a drop in the winter when the weather turned a little bit colder, but we are getting about 10 a day. 10 a day, I would say.
But taking them off the feed,
we took them off the feed too,
and they started producing more.
Do you think
it's a crazy?
This is wild.
It's wild.
This is a wild conspiracy, but we're just now seeing articles of how they're going to be putting the mRNA in food in animals. Do you think that that's already started? Do you think that could have it? Because we know how it affects reproductive, right?
I've already seen so many people in the chat mentioning mRNA. So many people here in the chat are already saying mRNA.
That's where my mind just went.
Yeah.
When you said food.
I don't know, you guys. I mean, this chicken feed bit is conjecture, but many chicken farmers on TikTok, I know that's not science, but our fellow chicken owners are saying that something is amiss and they are experiencing this. So more research needs to be done, clearly. But something is scrambled here, right? And so for the final word on this, I'm going to give it to TikTok star Carlos the Rooster. He knows what's going on.
I felt like a Puerto Rican in this hair. I felt Puerto Rican. Y'all know I love me some Puerto Rican. I felt Puerto Rican in this. Rican. Ooh.
Okay, that has nothing to do with anything, but I just love him because I watch chickens on TikTok in my free time. So
they should have one called Chick Talk then.
Chick Talk.
I hope you love him as much as I do. I've watched that video about 30 times and it gets me every time.
That one's not all it's cracked up to be.
It is. He's so good.
To crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
All right.
Anyway, well,
let us know.
I mean, I know we're joking about it, but this is a serious issue, especially if they're manipulating our food supply in this way. And we'll be keeping an eye on it. And please, if we have any chicken farmers, please email us. Let us know. I'm Clayton at redacted.inc on email. You can also hit us up on Twitter. I'm Clayton Morris on Twitter. She is at Natali Morris on Twitter. Hit us up there. Let us know if you're a chicken farmer. You've got you raise have your own eggs. From your chickens, are you experiencing something like this or not? And just let us know. We'd love to follow this story. All right, we've got more news to get to, but before that, we are going to move over to Rumble exclusively. So come on over to our Rumble channel and hang out with us a little bit. Rumble.com/redacted. We're going to end the live stream on YouTube now. So the stream will continue over on Rumble, but we'd like to move over there exclusively because of censorship, and we want to show our Rumble audience some love. So come on over. Again, rumble.com/redacted is our channel. Please be sure to subscribe. We've got about 20,000 of you watching us on Rumble Live right now. So come on over. All 20,000 of you on YouTube, come on over to Rumble. And then we'd have like 45,000 of you over on